Is everything in class already? Is there anyone missing here? No? Okay, so you can take a pen here. We are going to talk today of Unit 12. Yeah, use of resources. The Unit 12 use of resources. Yeah, okay, it's the first day doing this, but I think it will be very useful for you guys. So before we're talking about so this is Unit 12, we are going to talk about the use of resources. So, resources, the magic word. Which kind of resources we have? We have two kinds of resources, okay? Two kinds, or two types. Any idea the two kinds of resources? There is those resources without never-ending resources. We always can find more if we look for it. It can be eventually, they can look as you can not get any more from them. But in the short or long run, maybe there is a new exploitation somewhere else in land, and you find more of these resources. So in the long run, usually it never ends. So basically, just in resume, which kind of resources we have? Those one no ending, never ending, and no ones which is constrained in time and stock, and you cannot find always. It will be some time that we run out of them. Which is the name? So something which can be found again is renewable and non-renewable. So here we have renewable. So examples of non-renewable goods. Usually they have a tendency in the price to increase along the time, because usually the demand expands and always there is the same amount, or otherwise they have tendency to run out of them because people use them. So they are limited. There is a real problem of scarcity with non-renewable. So something which is non-renewable, all precious metals, basically these precious metals, the most famous one will be silver, will be gold. Something that we hear in the news all the time, then we are running out of it, and in 100 years we might not find any more of this natural resource we find on the land. Oil, very good.
Coal.
Exactly. Iron, if you want as well. And then renewable ones, usually you cannot own them, cheap, because you can find everywhere. And they're very difficult to monopolize. So, which kind of renewable ones we have? Water, air,
Sand.
somehow also meat, always the animals. You never will end up with the whole existence of animals on the earth. Vegetables if you want.
Tree.
Malthus used to say that the resources are limited, constrained, and he predicted that in 200 years, as the population is growing exponentially, while the resources are growing geometrically, there will be a scarcity, a real problem, and many people will suffer in starvation and death, and there will be no resources for everyone. But the time proved him wrong, because what had happened with the Industrial Revolution and afterwards the technological revolution is that a human being has capacity with technology to increase the production. So many vegetables could be. But sometimes when we overexploit, there's an overexploitation of some natural resource, we can turn non-renewable into renewable, can turn into non-renewable. This is a problem which is happening. So what could be with this? It could happen with the fish stock. For example, in the Mediterranean Sea, we have a problem now with the fish, because that one which is not polluted, there is not enough for everyone. And we have, even if it's a renewable resource, in politics, we have a problem, for example, with Morocco, because we have a struggle with this country, and we try to negotiate where we can fish and where we cannot fish. Because the fish stock is an example. So there is a tendency that renewables become non-renewable. And this is one of the main reasons we have economy. Economy is the struggle or trying to distribute it as even possible the resources. That's why they have an economic value. So one of the main things of economy concept is scarcity, right? Okay. If we talk about use of resources and we are talking about economy, we're going to focus in something which is non-renewable or something which is renewable. We face economic problem. There is not enough resources for everyone, and there is a struggle in real life. So people try to exchange goods according to the value they perceive coming from these goods or these services. So Michael, this is the question for you: non-renewable or renewable? If we talk about economy.
Non-renewable. Non-renewable.
No,
renewable.
3, 2, 1. Yeah, that one. Non-renewable because we don't bother about water, air, and meat. Nobody paid me for the air. I'm breathing. Okay? Do I have to pay anything? No, not yet. Maybe they create some tax in some governments to pay for the quality of the air. I won't be surprised. But as far as we are concerned right now, non-renewable is where we are going to focus. So we are going to focus on those one, okay? So
Can you go to take it?
we focus in non-renewable resources. And the way the governments manage the non-renewable resources is critical, especially in the long run, for the future development of the country, in terms of money. Is if you have money in your bank account, for example, you have to worry without that, right? So if you have unlimited resources of money, on the very contrary, you have a special amount of money and you have to play with that. So if you spend it all at once, you have no possible to invest in the future. For example, to invest or support yourself in time, to develop or vote some time to create some business, for example. So it's important how we manage and how we organize our non-renewable resources. So if a country has oil, has to control the production of oil and the sale of oil, because he doesn't want to run out of oil very fast, and because it's gonna make the price go down as well. So they control what put in stock, in offer and supply. So for example, we are going to talk about, in the book tells the example of oil in Venezuela. Okay? Oil in Venezuela. So let's say the government can take two options: increase the production of oil or constrain the production of oil in order or regarding some purposes of aims in the future. So if they want to increase high quality, they're going to increase, for example, the price of the oil, or want to reduce. They will use to increase the economic growth very fast, or limit the economic growth in the long run or in the short run. For example, let's say that we go with the oil in Venezuela. Let's take the example of Venezuela. You know, Venezuela is the fourth country with more resources of oil. I think it's the fourth. Yeah, so it's very rich in oil. But unfortunately, we face a situation where we live in a dictatorship in Venezuela, where the government takes the whole ownership of the production of oil, and they really are limited, if not banning, the entrepreneurship or any private investment in this land. So it's the government takes the whole control, and by nature it's inefficient, and that's why they're facing economic problems. So it will be needed, like the private ownership of this has shrink in the size of the government, has totally shrink, so it will help. So if we go to the oil in Venezuela, the governments, they are gonna control the non-renewable resources depending what they are aiming in the future. What's their goal? Usually, if we increase the supply of non-renewable resources, let's say in Saudi Arabia or Venezuela, they start to extract a lot of oil and put it in sale, it's going to have a consequence. If the government say, stop, wait a moment, I think it's not the time to put to sell or to offer supply all this amount of oil because it's going to have different consequences. So they are going to try to ration what they have in the market to supply. So for example, let's say there is an increase in oil production, okay? So we have an increase in supply. The demand is the same. What happens if they increase the supply of oil? So we have more oil available to buy.
Price will go down.
It will be a price will go down. And this will be exactly the opposite what happens in the 70s with the OPEC. It was a crisis because the price of the oil increased. So all the goods, the cost of production of every single good increased as well. So this happened, a shortage in the demand, and it really was very harmful and detrimental for the economic growth. So as oil is used in almost every form of production, industries, energy, houses, so it's the main source used by the whole country. If the price is lower, it means the cost of production will be lower. So there will be an increase in demand, right? So we have a lot of supply, so the demand, there is a lot of demand, so it is people buying. So when there is a shortage, there is an increase in the oil production, the cost of production of every single product, service, good, is going to be shrink. It will be diminished. So it will happen automatically, the demand will increase, and then it will boost the economic growth. So what's going to happen is, first of all, increase in GDP. The increase in GDP is going to happen, increase in employment, right? So the unemployment rate will diminish. What happened with exports? Exports will increase at least. When you increase the oil production, the price of your goods will be lower because the energy cost used to produce every single product, like unit cost product, will diminish. So you can offer or supply your good, your service in a lower price. So then if the price of everything go down, it will increase the demand. The aggregate demand, you remember aggregate demand? Aggregate demand is consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus exports minus imports. And this is going to be GDP as well. The way we calculate GDP, one of them was this way, from the consumption point of view. So we have aggregate demand. If we increase the oil production, it will be a tendency, the price of the oil to decrease. So if the price of oil decrease, the companies will use oil for in a lower price. So consumption will increase, investment, expenditure of the government. So the consequences of an increase of the supply of resources, so if there are more resources available, is going to have a positive effect on the production or in the economic growth. So remember that non-renewable resources, if there is an increase of non-renewable resources available for people and for companies or for the government, the price is going to go down and going to result ultimately in an increase in economic growth. There will be economic growth and increase in employment, so it means more people. Obviously, if there is an economic growth, it's because companies, they are opening new companies, or companies they are investing, so new job positions are opening all over the world. So there is a need of people to work in this increase of the production. So of course we are going to increase the exports because my goods are going to be, the price is going to be lower. So I'm going to be more competitive in the external sector. So I will sell more goods because my goods will be cheaper. Everything is because there is an increase in the resources, and this increase in resources is going to make its price lower. As the price is lower, we can offer or supply our goods in a lower price. So if there is a lower price of the goods, we will sell more. It will be an increase in demand, and we're expansion of the economy. So, in which situations the government will do that? We will see short after. But now we're going to focus this. So, this is what it do in Venezuela. As there is an increase in GDP, the people and companies have more money, right, Mike? More money. So what is going to happen? The government is going to obtain or is going to take more taxes or less taxes. So if there is an increase in GDP, so we are growing more. Economically, we are producing more. There is more goods. There is more money going on. So the taxes usually is based in percentage. So as the economic growth, there is an economic growth, and the economies are producing more, and they have higher benefits. And there is also less. Sorry, this was wrong. Yeah, no, it's right. As there is more people working, and there is more people creating goods and services, what happened with the taxes in the government? Taxes will get more taxes or less taxes? More? More taxes, right. Because when there is more employment, you pay taxes for your job, right? When you are working every month, you have to pay taxes to the government. So it's based in incomes. The taxes are based in incomes. So if there is an increase in incomes because there are more people working, of course there is going to be an increase of money taken by the government. So as there is an increase in taxes, also has a very good effect, like in Keynesian politics, Keynes politics, where there is an economic crisis, but you increase the government expenditure, this can help to soften any recession in the economy or even boost the economic growth. So there is more taxes, the government is going to spend more money as well, for example. That we part from the presumption that the government, or assumption that the government is responsible and it's not corrupt, okay? So this is going to be an increase in government expenditure. In education, so with the increase of taxes, you can create more schools, pay more teachers, and healthcare, right? So we have increase in the non-renewable resources, something which is limited, constrained. We have no unlimited supply of oil production, but the government put it in offer, in circulation, this resource, which is non-renewable, the price is going to low down. And it's a resource used for other goods. So it's going to boost the economy. So what it will be the opposite effect? If the oil production shorten, it's going to limit the GDP. It's going to be a weight for the economic growth. So it will limit or soften the economic growth and probably will create unemployment. And it will be just the opposite effect. Let's say the government is supplying certain amount of X barrels of oil per month, and the government decide, there is a huge inflation, the prices is going up a lot because we are growing too fast, which it can be very harmful for our long-term growing economy. So they decide to limit or to constrain the put in circulation, the barrels of oil. So if there is less oil, it's going to increase the price of the oil. As the price of oil increase, me that I use oil to produce, I have to sell my goods, my services, I have to sell it at a higher price. What happens if we have a higher price? What is going to happen with the demand?
Less demand.
Less demand, exactly. And if there is less demand, there will be less consumption. And then as there is less demand, investors or people, businessmen, they won't invest money because it's not profitable, because the people is not buying stuff. So they won't invest. The only one which has some kind of freedom is this one. And exports, they are going to reduce because your products are more expensive. So usually you will import more than export. So oil production decrease, it will be a constraint in the economic growth. It will be an increase in unemployment rate, and your exterior sector will be seriously harmed as well. So, if we increase the oil production, or there is more companies, either governmental companies or private companies, extracting oil and supplying to people any non-renewable resources, it means the value of this, because there is more, the value decreases. Consequences, this. So people in Venezuela, for example, if there will be an increase in the oil production and distribution of the oil to people with a diminishing the price, Venezuelan people could enjoy a higher life quality, right? It's a non-renewable resource, the country is rich on it, it's a resource which is used worldwide, there is a huge demand for this resource everywhere, so the government of Venezuela could make money out of it, right? Could make money out of it, could increase the oil production, consequently will be a reduction of the price for the oil, so the people could produce a cheaper price, they could sell their goods cheaper price, it will be a boost and increase in demand. This increase in demand will promote an increase in consumption, will promote an increase in investment, and will make in short, medium term, it will be an increase in the life quality as well, because if the government is responsible and they know how to manage money as well educated, they will see also the government increasing their incomes coming from people and companies, and they could use this money as in a circular way to reinvest in the whole country in education and healthcare, which is also will be a good investment for the long term, because everyone knows that in the long run, education and healthcare is one of the main factors of economic growth. Okay, it looks very good. Guys, we have an increase in GDP, in economic growth. What is the negative consequences of increase in the extraction of non-renewable resources? It could be oil. What happens if we put available for many people oil resources? The price will decrease, right? It will be economic growth. What is the bad side of this? Why governments, if it's so easy to do that, why Saudi Arabia, or why Venezuela, or why other governments, they don't try to promote this economic growth? Why don't make use of the resources? Say, you know, we have all, for this year, we're going to increase the supply of oil double. So we're going to make the oil cheaper. Why? Daniel, Lenelia? Did you wake up? Wake up, wake up. What is the bad side of this? Try to say something. Try to... So what will be the bad side? The negative side. So increase oil production, increase supply of non-renewable resources. Alright? Yeah, economic growth in the long term. It will be a super increase of GDP, maybe. It is properly managed and distributed in economy. If we promote private investment. Outside, negative consequences. If we don't try to ration in time the production or the supply, we don't try to organize, and we want to put in supply the whole stock of supply of oil, it could have very detrimental effect. And it will be that an excess of supply of any non-renewable good, it makes run out. So if you are Saudi Arabia and you put all your oil available, maybe in 10 years, you run out of oil. If you are Venezuela, anyone knows it's non-renewable. There is some time that it will finish. So you want to manage your time in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And you don't want, if you use all your oil now, it will be good for this year, but after 5 years you may be poor. Because your country depends or relies on non-renewable source, which is oil. So you have to take advantage of this. I will give you an example with money. But okay, Consequences, it will be overexploitation. Of resources. So in the long run, lack of resources of income is damaging economic growth. Okay, I ask any of you to kindly explain me what could mean. So if there is an overexploitation of resources, we exploit the extraction of oil more than is adequate. So we don't have not many resources. We know we are gonna run out of oil in 5 years because there is no more resources. We overexploited our resources of oil, and the oil is non-renewable. So we are the government. We know that in 5 years time we have no oil anymore, which is the source of our wealth in our country. So there is overexploitation in the long run. There is a lack of resources of income and damaging economic growth. What does it mean that? Why will be a lack of resources? Why will be a lack of money coming in? If there is, so now we are enjoying. We say that oil production increase GDP, increase employment. Why? Because everyone uses oil. So if the oil is cheap, the price is cheap. If we sell things cheap, there is an increase in demand. If there is an increase in demand, companies they get encouraged, or they are more prompt to invest, as the government as well, because there is a climate of economic euphoria. So guys, anyone can explain me? Marco, lack of resources of income. What does it mean that? Why there is, if we overexploit the resources, may mean in the long run, not now, but maybe in 5 years time, then there is no income. Why? Because people, say again please.
Resources, use more resources in
Other kind of resources, right? So for example, Saudi Arabia, which is doing now, they know that this is a non-renewable energy, or other countries in the Arabic Gulf. They know they cannot live 100 years more in a proper climate of economic growth, because they have something that will be finished at some end. So they are clever, and what they are doing, they say, okay, with the money we get from taxes, because now